Hi, this is Kaizoku Uncharted, where a couple of siblings sell the vast sea of anime. If you think this is the crew for you, set sail with us each week. I'm Jakia.
And Justin. So, dungeon people. Or were we doing quality assurance?
I mean, we dungeon people.
Okay. Hey, I mean, you kind of hesitated here. All right, so let's hear what's dungeon people supposed to be about.
Okay, so dungeon people. All right, for the last 3 years, Clay has undergone rigorous training in order to find her father, who was last seen exploring a dungeon. While dungeon exploring is difficult for any regular adventurer, Clay knows her father, a thief who doesn't purely rely on raw power or magic, managed to progress farther than anyone else. Clay sets off after him, following in his footsteps until she encounters a furnished room behind a dungeon wall. Okay. So that's a synopsis. But how would you describe dungeon people to the people?
It's almost like, I want to say it's the other side of the coin of dungeon life. You know, I didn't know what we were going to be expecting, but we started to learn the inner workings of the dungeon.
I feel like that's a good thing. I feel like you're right. I think maybe there were 2 other shows we talked about previously that kind of like touched on like how does a dungeon work.
Yeah, everyone's done it a little different.
Everyone's done it different, but I feel like this is probably the most high-tech dungeon behind the scenes moment I've seen. Of like the inner workings of just like of how monsters are chosen, what the layout's about,
it's
how
more everyday life.
It is more everyday life. It's just like how does how does the dungeon function? All the things like some shows been like, this how do you expect the dungeon to be like have maintenance? So they're covering everything from like maintenance to just like everyday life. Let's see. How do I feel? I feel like this show's like a good show if it's like chill. It's nothing too crazy. It's nothing outrageous.
There was no sense of urgency.
There you go. There's no sense of urgency, which was interesting considering like her goal was to find her father, and to be honest, and this just might be me. How does this dungeon only have 10 floors? I feel like if you're going to be a dungeon, I feel like you need to at least have 15 floors. I feel like 10 is too short for me.
There's tons of dungeons with only 10 floors.
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. But since we're learning from behind the scenes of like how Belle changes and switches it up, I'm just like, okay, that's fine. But because I'm just like, why are we all still struggling to get past like the first
I was going to say,
3
do we
floors?
really need more than 10 floors when I don't want to.
Because Belle's just so OP. She's the final boss, and I'm just like, hey, if people struggling on 3, I don't know. I feel like they only got 7 more flows to go till like it's the end all be all. I feel like there needs to be a little bit more of a gap or space before they get to the final boss because she's no joke. Okay, yeah. But I will say, I like how both Belle and Clay are just very OP for no apparent reason. Not for no apparent reason. Like, Clay's been, she had the rigorous training and everything with her father. So it makes sense how powerful she is. But we have no information on Belle and what she's about. None whatsoever. None.
Got it. So I was trying to remember the name of that one, the best party that keeps going the deepest. But
the Ice Wolves?
But they know when to turn around. Good. Well, that's what I'm saying.
They just turn around. And even Belle them said, they're like, why'd they turn around to that one fight? Like, they go home and they don't come back for months, and then they come back. I don't know.
Hey, that's why I'm like, do we really need more than 10? So
I think they're acting this way because there is only 10 floors.
Hey, they have journeyed the deepest. These are the... Now, I know the
but they haven't even gotten to... Wait, have they even gotten to the 7th floor?
I don't think they've gotten to the 7th.
Yeah, Clay's the only one that's gotten to the 7th floor.
She's not registered, okay? You're supposed to go in there as a party.
No, she's rich. She's solo, and she's with the Thieves Guild, and
Yeah.
the Ice Wolves are with the Adventurer Guild. Okay.
She's not involved on here.
Okay, I suppose.
Now, I know when this first started, the first thing all I could think about was Kia, these requirements are ridiculous from Clay's dad.
I agree, because I was like, at first I was like, I think he a bad teacher because he just wanted her to have dry eyes. I was like, that's wild.
It's like be able to fight for 10 hours straight.
A minimum of 10 hours straight.
Right. That's her stamina. Don't relax.
So no blinking.
To blink, a monster can get you that quick. I was like, makes sense. But they are a thief class. Mm-hmm. The father has vanished. And 3 years later, we've decided, okay, let's go to the dungeon.
Right.
Now, the 7th floor at this time is the deepest that has yet to be cleared.
Right.
So, but also we just beat the A4 boss. So I was like, okay. And then, like you said, we meet Belle. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, okay, we get offered a job to work for dungeon operations.
Yes.
And then that's when I'm like, okay, cool, we're in the workforce.
Right.
I'm like, got it. And then after that, it's like,
just random hijinks of everyday life.
Sure. And then every day, we start to meet the golems that go ahead and help maintain them. Are they ratchet?
They're not ratchet. They handle business. I love how Clay has a little fan club because it got all excited. And Ragnar was like, hey, just take the stairs because they're all trying to jump off the cliff because it's faster.
Yes, I mean, I like that. They admired her, and they were trying to jump to the next floor. And I was like, good.
This is becoming a problem, though, with halting things.
Also like the fact, it's like Belle doesn't understand work etiquette.
Yeah.
Because Clay's like, I can't be friends with a superior.
Right. Immediately, she was like, I can't be friends with you.
So this makes perfect sense to me. This is real life. Can't just be offering jobs. But it's crazy. Because, by the time we got to episode 3, I was like, I don't know if these golems are ratchet or not.
I mean,
but you're saying they're not.
I don't think they're ratchet. I don't think they're ratchet. Well, maybe. No, I don't think they're ratchet. I don't think they're ratchet. I think they're real ones, and they're just like a fan club. So, yeah, I don't think they're ratchet. But shout out to we saw the goblins forming a party. I thought that was great.
Yes,
I was just like, shout out to the previous show. I was like, with goblins, I was like, yes, I'm always about us expanding the world of goblins. So yeah.
I mean, some shows made them go. Send them back.
I mean, listen, we're pro goblins and pro slimes here. Okay, we're not always trying to take them out.
But, I just like the fact that we always keep using our dad's advice.
Yes, I will say maybe he wasn't, there was something on to his training. So, yes, we do use his advice.
She taught us about, we're not supposed to trust dungeon people. They're dangerous.
Yes.
They're more dangerous than the monsters in the dungeon.
Yes.
They will kill, they will steal, and then at times sexual assault.
I know.
I was like, oh my gosh, this show, work etiquette, giving great advice to people. You never know.
Harassment, all the things you never know, and it's wild. It's wild. So, because later on we find out, because I'm jumping, but later on, and this is the type of show we can do it. But later on, we come across a group of murderers, and they're literally murderers, and everyone's like, oh, they're great, they're nice because they're kind in the outside world, and they're just like, yeah, they're not committing these crimes in the outside world, they're only committing them in dungeons, and so so I'm just like, people are dangerous, dungeon people are dangerous. Because there are no rules, anything goes.
Yeah, there's no rules in a dungeon.
There's no rules in dungeons.
That's why we were taught this. Mm-hmm. It's all good advice.
But I will say I like how there's a thief class and there's a thief, like we're seeing more about the thief class because I feel like that's kind of overshowed, like not really like talked about in most shows, or they're kind of like, not taken
It's
seriously.
not an honorary. It's not a very honorable class, right?
But I'm just like, I feel like Clay and her dad are like really making the case for it. And the thief guild.
I was gonna say the guild.
He's ratchet. The fact that he was like, he showed up in his office and he was like, now when did he sneak in here? Because he's retired. Like, he's not out on the field anymore.
We found out the whole Geef deal had disappeared.
Right.
And the fact that the Thief Guild is working with the dungeon.
Yes, they have a whole relationship.
So it's just like, okay. But yeah, we find out how this dude is, like, and then we find out about, like, not just the workings, but your weapons have to accept you.
You have to reach a certain level to be able to, like, pull out the, pull out the true potential and power of said weapons, because Clay inherited, this dagger or this knife from her dad, and then we come to find out Ragnar, who's the other employee,
right?
Who's the other employee who basically handles everything. Like, he's the one that actually gets stuff done.
Is he?
He's the one that's literally changing the layout of the floor.
He seems lazy.
He's not. He's building all the weapons. He's handling clothes.
He literally told us that they were putting the weaker stuff in these chests. I'm just like,
but he's
step
showing
it up.
He's showing up, and hey, why keep rewarding this behavior if y'all can't even get past the third floor? You don't need any of the good stuff. You don't.
The carrot before the horse.
Okay, I'm just like, look, I'm not about to be dropping all these, like, monsters can give off gems, all this, as you continue on in the
when we learned about the gem,
that was wild. I was like, yo, this makes so much sense. I was like, this is great.
I don't know about making sense. She just randomly picks one, and here you go. I was like, there's no real thought process behind it.
I like the idea of, like, because Belle makes a good point about, like, hey, how do we employ monsters? So, like, they employ monsters, and so she's like, hey, we're not going to have monsters that show up to be like, yeah, I just want to come here to die, or whatever. It's just like, no, this is the precaution. Like, you say you're going to work here, great, we'll make a carbon copy of your body with this gem, so that when you are out on the dungeon, if you win, great. If you lose, that's not the end of your life. So I think that's cool. I think that's fine.
I mean, that part's okay, but I meant, like, the size of the gem. Like, she's just, like, randomly go choose one. And it's like, okay. And then it's like, but like you said, like, there's a complete room and board housing district for that monster.
It's true.
They do this for payment. Like, they make funds. Like,
they make one, and it goes to some families, because we heard that with other people.
It's just wild.
It is, but I like that, though, because it's, like, not humanizing, but it's, like, giving, like, hey, these monsters have lives before and after the dungeon.
They got work to do.
This
is them going to work.
There are interviews that she holds.
We'll get to those interviews. So there's been no evidence that Clay's dad has actually left the dungeon.
Yes, I feel like it's one of the biggest mysteries, and I'm just like, are we ever gonna find out? I don't know. Right,
because it's also like, okay, so if this is the furthest it's been explored, then we should have ran into him.
Right.
If the final boss is Belle, it's always like she didn't want to straight up ask her either.
I mean, I would have, but she's
especially
like,
since we're employed now.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. Then we find out Clay must reach the 10th floor to awaken the weapon. Mm-hmm. And then we go ahead, and as we're introduced to all the residents,
yes,
we overhear somebody say, "Is that wind slicer guy your dad?" You know, it's like,
now that person was outrageous. Okay.
Then they also have an arena, like, I guess maybe to practice.
That's right. Yes, Justin, there's a system. Like, we keep it classy in the dungeon, okay? It's just not randomness. Yeah. Yeah.
as we do some type of arena training, then a dragon enters.
It's true, because we went up against goblins, which we knew we were gonna win, which is fine. And then a dragon's just like, hey, you seem pretty strong. Not as strong as me, but I'll give you the honor to like at least battle me, knowing that she gonna lose. But he was like, it's an honor that you'll even be able to face me.
It was an intense stuff.
It was.
She like undid her hair clip, and that meant that meant it's go time.
Yeah, and I was like, I feel like that would have been the opposite. I was like, she can't see, but no, her bangs are long. But.
It's like in Patchy's eye patch. She's like unleashed more power, I guess. But
that's right, because you took out both of them, not just one.
I mean, it was, she stabbed him in the eye. Mm-hmm. He also lost a claw, but she lost an arm. Right. Like, this is some intense stuff.
Right, but because of the gym.
Because of your safety protocol.
It's a safety protocol. It's fine. And the dragon, he stopped because he was like, I don't like to get hurt. So let's stop.
We're good. And then, again, we started to learn more of the basic concepts of living. We started a whole episode based on learning to cook.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, we start cooking some delicacies that only royalty would know of. What was it, dragon meat?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, got it. And then, like you said, you just don't get randomly chosen for this job. There's an interview process.
But you do get randomly chosen for the floor.
Yes, that was completely random.
But it's all okay, but go ahead. Yeah, there's an interview process. Like,
Clay's just sitting there essentially as like the muscle.
Right.
And like Clay has like real questions. Like I'm trying to figure out how do they survive, like all types of stuff. And it's just like, okay, got it. But then we go ahead, the first interviewer, Taru, Alara Cyclops.
Right.
And she's just like, oh, you're going to be on the 10th floor. You're a 10th floor resident. I'm like, okay. But I like the fact that the interview process got like infiltrated. I was like, how is this possible? And then I started to think about it like, oh my gosh, what if just some random person went to an organization and just took over an interview? Like, it's like, it came out of nowhere. So, he killed, what's his dude name? Hell Dan. He went ahead and killed the original interviewer.
Yeah.
And then, essentially was like, are you the strongest one here? Because I can take over this place. And, like, we killed them. Because it's like
they're both so powerful. Have mercy, yeah.
Like, it is a dungeon after all. So
it is a dungeon.
Person got killed. And then we went ahead and, we learned that, like, Clay is embedding magic into her soul or body, possibly. Because the whole time we were like, why are you not using magic?
That's true. And that was something that they talked about early on about whether or not she has magic. And then when we had that one match, she had the opportunity, when she ended up becoming, she became one of the skeletons and took over. And then that's what she learned about, like, and I think that's where she learned how to properly, like, imbue her magic into her dagger to be able to, like, counter or dispel magic. But no, it's a question. I was just like, why are we doing this?
Right.
I was like, why aren't we? Yeah.
So then, floor reconstruction, you got to switch it up a little bit. But then we start to understand more of the partnerships or any workings of the world. Apparently, like leasing a company, there is a contract with the dungeon and the nation, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when so there's a king. So like Belle has to meet the new king,
right?
Per the contract, and I guess her predecessor was the one who met the king the first time.
Yeah.
And she was just like witnessed it. So We go ahead and meet this new upstart king.
Yeah.
And, she let it be known that you can use basically.
Well, hold on. Let's back up. So the point of the match between. She meets the king. She's supposed to meet the king of the nation because what's at stake is who controls the dungeon. And so if she loses, the kingdom is like, cool, we're gonna take the dungeon over. We're gonna manage it moving forward because the nation, the kingdom is like, oh, you guys have minerals and all this other stuff. We're just gonna take it over, and so they have to like battle the king or whoever the king decides who's gonna be to fight on their behalf. So that's what's at stake. That's what's at stake. But yes, like you were saying, Belle gave the new king, hey, you can have up to 6 people to battle me, and we'll just go for it.
I was surprised he didn't choose 6.
He technically did choose 6. He technically chose 6 because when you break it down, like at first, also the outfit situation was hilarious. I was just like, what's going on?
Yeah, it was like a sacrificial robe or something.
It was, yeah, and then like Clay's like, isn't this like the same thing as your other outfit? But she didn't want to say it out loud, which is like, sure. But basically he did because so Belle's in the ring and he has a sorcerer, he has a lance person, and then he also has a swordsman.
Yeah.
And so those are the ones who are at the front, who are the main people at the front. And then who are in the arena with Belle. But then, as Clay mentioned, like while they were like, because that's another thing, like Belle didn't even use any magic. And I was like, she was just like taking them out on just like strength alone. But Clay even mentioned it. She's like, hey, these people are moving in a way that they're not used to this support magic that they've been given. So like the 2 guards on the outside, I was counting those 2 like outside the building. It's like, okay, that's 5. And then when he was like planning his little attack,
his butler
to take out Clay, I was like, cool, that's his 6. And so technically, I think that's why Belle didn't say anything because she's like, hey, this is the whole space.
Yeah, she didn't want any excuses.
She didn't want any excuses because she said it. She was like, hey. She was like, I don't want any excuses for a rematch. And so, yeah, I thought the fight was great. It was,
I don't know about great.
Great in the sense that, because they all were like, we're not going to fight a girl. And I'm just like, all of y'all lost. The sorcerer was too afraid to even cast or chant a spell. I was like,
I like the fact that the butler guy tried to take Clay hostage.
And it didn't work out. And then...
Hey, he didn't even look. It
happened so fast.
Yeah, he was just like, you might want to stop what you're doing. He's like, we got your assistant here hostage. And like, Clay already took him out.
Right. So yeah, I thought that was great in the sense of like, she showed the kingdom like, hey, you're not getting this dungeon anytime soon. And then we had a flashback from her predecessor who was like, hey, don't go easy on these people. You say he was just like, you need to destroy them flat out so that they do not keep coming back time and time again. And so I think it was great that she defeated all of them.
Right.
Without even using her magic. So yeah.
What did they say? Something about like crush their hopes so that they don't so that you don't like embarrass them too much or something. It was like it was backwards, but they're like
you need to humiliate these people. Yes.
Right. That way they stay in their lane. Now in this world we realize goblins grow from plants.
Yeah, so it was different. I was just like, okay, but it still honored the fact of how goblins traditionally multiply. Because she even mentioned it. She was like, hey, it's not realistic for us, like not many female adventurers come down this way. Right? And so she was like, my predecessor to be all like, hey, and also from the fact that so many people stay within the first 3 floors, which is where goblins are, most of the goblins are being taken out too quickly to multiply, right? And so that's why they're like, her predecessor figured out a way to grow goblins because they're like vegetables. And then, but I will say, I love how whenever like Belle explains anything and Clay's not into it, she's just like, got it. And everyone's just like, she clearly doesn't understand.
Like, it's too much. It's too much to take in.
She's like, this is none of my business. She's like, it's fine. It's fine. Keep it pushing.
And then we kind of get more info on the Wind Slicer.
Just a little bit. So we end up going, we have a day off. which she's not accustomed to, which is
Right.
fine. And then she was pushing it, but we find out that she only got a day off because Belle needs time to figure out what else she can do. And I love how Belle's honest about the fact that she's just like, hey, I'm not good at this, so we're just gonna go with the flow. And so basically we go to one of the floors where most of the monsters are.
Right.
And so like she's just chilling and everyone's kind of nervous. And the senator that we met previously, he comes up to her and he's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm looking for somebody. But she was looking for somebody by listening for their voice. Right. And that's when we came across the cat, Binky or Blinky. Yeah. And then she asked questions about who the one slicer is.
Yeah, this cat's like real forgetful.
But it makes sense. I feel like it's fine. But I think in that moment when she was asking Blinky like who he was, she was just like, okay, everything that you're describing is not my father.
Right.
But then at the same time she was like, but she's still okay with the nickname or the moniker that he has. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, okay. So I was like, what are we really getting from this? So I was kind of confused on that part. So I don't really.
And then we finally get to some of these dungeon murders you were talking about.
Yes, and that was great in the sense like we took them out. Like the Thieves Guild was involved, the Adventure Guild was involved.
And they gotta uphold.
We gotta keep
something.
We gotta let people know. And so, the Thief Guild, Guildmaster told Belle about it. She was like, cool, say less. And then immediately they got to work. And she changed her outfit to a Grim Reaper outfit. And Clay had a matching outfit too. It was great. Yeah, and she just took him out. Yeah.
Does this get another? Because we don't find her dad.
I don't think we'll ever find her dad. Because here's the other thing that I don't think Clay is not thinking about. There are other dungeons in the world.
Right.
He might not be at this dungeon. It's been 3 years.
But I mean, there's no evidence that he ever left.
This is true too, because that was another thought of mine. Also, I was like, is he the predecessor of who owned the dungeon?
Oh.
That was my question. I was just like, hey, like he went away mysteriously. I was like, is this what happened? I was like, I don't know. Okay. Maybe he's living 2 lives where he's like, like in the dungeon, nothing but magic. Outside the world, nothing but hands. And that's it.
That just seems so intricate.
I don't know. And maybe he was like, these two need to be brought together.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like Ragnar
but it would
knows.
Be like, how would...
I don't know. I feel like Ragnar knows some stuff, but here's the thing that's annoying me about Clay. I like the fact that Clay was like, hey, I'm not trying to do the easy way out. I need to earn this information. I was like, that's fine. Right. But I'm just like, just ask Belle. Just ask Ragnar. Ragnar literally made the dagger. Like, he knows who this person is.
Right.
So I'm just like, well, why aren't we just, like, asking people more information so we can be more, so we can narrow down our search?
Be more effective with our time.
Absolutely. Because I'm just like, how long is this job at the dungeon going to last? Are we ever going to clean those rooms? Probably not. I don't know.
So the way it ends, you're okay with it. It's...
Because they friends,
yeah,
and they
like
needed
wholesome...
It's wholesome. It's nice. It's fine. I feel like I would like to see more stuff. I'm just like, we just got a glimpse about the spirits, but we didn't hear anything about how the water spirit like contributes to anything. We heard it from everyone else. We even saw in real time with like the earth spirit, like how he's just doing a lot of the work for a lot of things. Right. So I'm just like, there is potential for another season. I think a lot of people like this show as just like a wholesome back burner show.
Sure.
So,
But you would also be okay if it was just done.
I would be okay if it was just done, but I'm actually okay if it keeps going because, like, I feel like I need more information. I'm that person.
Right.
We don't know who Belle is. Who is she?
I want to see this party go to the next floor.
Me too. Like, what's going on with the Ice Wolves? Like, what's going on? And then we heard something else about another group called the Heat something. Maybe they were the Heat
Yeah,
Wolves.
they're like
Flame.
named several the top parties or something.
Yeah, and we never see or hear anything.
Because we don't need to. Because they only wanted the Ice Wolves wanted to recruit Belle or Clay. Because they're like, hey, you should join us.
Like you're that loner person, right? And she's just like,
hey, but we can't trust people.
We
so
can't
I get it. I get a lot of clear.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I mean, I would love to see Belle and Clay maybe go to another dungeon. And, because of, like, the person who infiltrated the interviews, he's talking about, like, hey, I'll take over here, too. I'm like, is that another thing of people going out to take over dungeons?
Okay.
Do we want to do that? I feel like Belle wouldn't want that much work. But, yeah. And then one last thing I just thought was most worth mentioning is we're taking slimes to the next level here. We got business slimes. Slimes that are handling fax messages, okay? They're handling faxes. I think so. I've never seen a show do that. Have you? I think so.
What's that one show with that biscuit head boy over here having a laundry service with slimes?
This is business slimes, like they're handling faxes.
They actually have a business.
This is the dungeon.
There is laundromats. They're actually turning profits.
Listen, so is the dungeon, okay? So is the dungeon. We have a whole relationship with the Thieves Guild. We have a whole agreement with the Kingdom. Okay, we're fine. Listen, I get it. I get it. Just say you're not ready for fax lines. I get it. It's fine.
I'm just saying, I don't know about business. It's being utilized as basically a fax or a transport.
I'm calling them business slimes. It's whatever. It's fine. Okay? You're not as excited.
I wonder, should we start rating this show? Like once we're done, like this just off the top.
We could rate the show.
Yeah. So like right now we're ending it, and it's like, okay, Dungeon People. Kia, what's your rating? Out of 10.
Out of 10.
Yeah, let's not do like some of these like nonsense stuff. Like
you want whole numbers?
You can do partials.
I'm gonna give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7.
I got no issue with that.
I'm going to give it a 7 because I'm going with plot. I'm going for intro, outro. I'm going for intro, out. Not to say that I like the intro, outro. I'm just saying like the vibe that it was like creating for the show.
No, I'm just saying I wasn't even including intros and outros.
I'm including it. So
that will hurt a lot of people's rankings.
It would hurt, as it should. Yeah, so I'm including intro, outros. Enjoyment. I enjoy the fact that we have like 2 strong
pacing.
Two strong female leads, like in their own respective right. I think that's great. I love Ragnar, and he's never trying to do nothing, but he's doing stuff. Yeah, I feel like it's a wholesome show. It's nice. I mean, there's some moments where it's like
I think I'll give it a 7 as well.
Okay, I feel like a 7's a good. All right, 7.
All
right, cool. All right, that's Dungeon People. That's our take on Dungeon People. If you watched it, what are you ranking it? If you haven't watched it, try the first 3 episodes. See if you're into it. Because that's how long it takes sometimes.
Yep.
All right. That's this episode of Kaizoku Uncharted.